Welcome to the 459th episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. I hope your Christmas was good. We're headed into the new year, a few days left to do what you can to make this a great year. Got to make every day count, right? We spent Christmas in Texas celebrating with Addie Dulaney-Meinrich and her family and her neighbors, and had a great time. We started out with a baby shower because we're going to be welcoming Cecilia Joy into the family in February, hopefully. And then we had a Christmas Eve dinner and a Christmas Day dinner, all of which were plant-based. 2 out of the 3 were shared with people that were totally not plant-based. So, again, I want to highlight that it's great to celebrate with people of all diversities as well as all food choices. You don't all have to eat alike. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to preach to other people. You don't have to eat what they eat. You can eat what you feel is healthy for you. So we made stuffed shells. I made an artichoke spinach dip. I made a pimento cheese dip. I made 4 loaves of sourdough bread while I was in Texas. We had fajitas when we were at the baby shower, rice and beans and avocado. We had some vegan cookies. We had some vegan cupcakes, but we stayed plant-based. And when you're eating good food, the sweets, it used to be back in the day before I was vegan, Christmas and the holidays were all about sweets and candy. And, I used to actually get indigestion from all the oil associated with the candy and cookies. But I found that with eating good food, you don't have that sweets craving. So, yeah, a cookie here or there, but that certainly wasn't the main ingredient of the holidays. So we had a great time. We went for runs. We went for walks, we played, and it was a great holiday. So I hope your holiday was good as well. The reason why I bring it up is that I had a patient come in today who had gained significant weight over the holidays and hosted a party, and the only thing she made for herself was a salad. The rest of the people brought in entrees that were completely not plant-based, and that was rinse and repeat throughout the holiday gatherings for this particular person. So blood pressure issues, weight issues, and the person's actually a good cook. It comes down to the fear of being rejected sometimes with your plant-based cooking. I got to tell you, people ate our stuffed shells, and the funny part about it was I forgot to buy the shells when we went shopping, so I ended up using lasagna noodles and rolled them into make your own shells, DIY shells. So I rolled them into more of a manicotti looking design, and it actually served up well. But people ate our dips, our bread, our stuffed shells. We ate fajitas that were from a restaurant. So it all works out, and nobody says this is plant-based, don't eat it. Nobody asked ingredients. So it's completely doable, and it should never prohibit sharing the company of friends and family just because you eat a little different. And the reality of it is there's a huge swing in calories when you make your food plant-based because you're eliminating a lot of oil, and of course, everything has cheese in it at this time of year. So just by going to cashew cheese and cutting back on a little bit and using the bare minimum, you can save a lot of fat and a lot of calories. Certainly you're saving a lot of cholesterol, you're eliminating eggs, butter, and the like. So you really can get through the holidays with a significantly less amount of hidden calories and not really have to watch so much what you're actually eating. Today on the Facebook, there's always something that blows my mind. And there was actually somebody that did a demo on how to make an M&M casserole. And basically you just put every kind of M&M into a casserole bowl and toss them, and that was their so-called dish. And when it comes down to this is something that people demonstrate is how to make an M&M casserole, you know the level of cooking skills that we have in our society today. I've seen things where people, dump eggnog on top of cookies in a tin and then take the parchment paper out and call this a dessert. And so, people just take things that are awful and make them much worse. So again, if you don't know what you're eating in some of these things, you can get into big, giant trouble with not only calories and fat and cholesterol and salt, but also in added ingredients, dye number, whatever, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and all the like, that you can get a tremendous amount of toxin over a holiday. And then, add that to the salt intake, and people get into trouble with their heart. They don't feel good enough to exercise or go out and do their walks, and one thing leads to another. So you got a week to go before New Year's Eve, so rein it in. Try a New Year's Eve dinner that is, sauerkraut is usually part of good luck for New Year's Eve. You can make a lentil loaf instead of a pork roast if that's what you do. So a lot of different things to sub in for a nice New Year's Eve dinner or New Year's Day dinner. Does not have to be, a traditional oily, salty meal. The other thing that happens over the holiday season when people are traveling, especially since people haven't been traveling as much because of COVID, and they haven't been celebrating together, and people are more isolated, people are getting infections, and this is, what you would see on TV is the height of flu and cold season. And, my theory on it is that people's immune systems are down for a variety of reasons, and one of which is they're just not getting the little exposures that they would with the social interactions that they had before COVID. All of a sudden, we're afraid of each other, and, you're not getting just a little boost to your immune system that it takes to remain healthy. We have had tremendous success in our practice treating COVID, the flu, bronchitis. We haven't had any hospitalizations because of it, because we treat people early, promptly, aggressively, and we stay in touch with them. A lot of people think that, we have a membership practice and they're healthy and they don't need us and they have things under control. But when you need us, you need us. And I dare you to try to call a big box office and get somebody to answer the phone or treat you with all the things that you need to be treated for to get yourself through COVID, long COVID, if you happen to have that, or influenza or bronchitis. So, we treat early and aggressively to prevent, symptoms. And what happens is people get these diseases, they start to get a cough, their airways get inflamed, and they become more susceptible to bacterial overgrowth, and they end up getting a pneumonia on top, and they can get into big trouble. So that's the reason to be so aggressive with vitamins and turmeric and ginger and a lot of other antioxidants. We use antibiotics when needed. We use steroids when needed. Certainly maintaining good nutrition, altering people's nutrition. When you don't feel like eating, how do you maintain calories? How do you maintain hydration? So we work with people on a daily basis to get them through these illnesses if necessary and keep them out of the hospital. And we've been quite successful in doing that. And I think that's where traditional box medicine really falls flat on its face, because people want to do, most physicians are under the gun to do a lot of billable procedures, to do a lot of billable well visits, to do a lot of billable non-necessary testing, and then when somebody's actually sick, there's no room in their schedule to see them. With a limited practice like ours, we always have time to get people in to see them, talk to them, take care of them, and that's an advantage. I wish that insurance companies would reimburse for that or recognize that being a good doctor is better than being a, prescription provider, but it doesn't. And so that we can keep our practice small, we do charge a membership fee. Like Addie and I talked about before Christmas, our full membership, I act like somebody's doctor. They have my name and phone number, or my email and phone number, and can text me, but we're very aggressive in the office as well to get people what they need, wherever they are in the country, whether they're traveling or they're here in Florida. So it makes it, good for them to know that they kind of have us in their back pocket all the time. For people that just want coaching, nutritional coaching, wellness coaching, mobility coaching, we have a level 2 membership where Addie and I speak to a client once a month, different times, of course, and go over a personalized plan for them to maximize their nutrition, mobility, and healthcare goals, help them interpret tests, help them strategize on their overall health as far as reversing disease, medication withdrawal, and so forth. And then there's a level that Addie speaks once a month as a dietitian, and all of the levels people have access to our online content. We have recently added a just online content as well. You still get to see our mobility classes, our nutrition classes, lectures, demos. You can watch those live, but they're also available on our members-only website. So you can have live interaction with us as far as putting chat questions in during that time, or watch them at your leisure. So if you're interested in what our practice is about, check out the website at drdulaney.com, DoctorDulaney. And on that same line, there was a recent study looking at hospitals that were owned by private equity groups, and they looked at those private equity group hospitals and found that out of all hospitals, all private hospitals, 9% are private equity, 386 in the United States. 30% of for-profit hospitals are private equity, and 34% of them are located in rural areas. And why this is important, Texas has the most with 85. New Mexico has the highest proportion. 43% of their hospitals are private equity. Most psychiatric institutions, or a lot of psychiatric institutions, the highest at 24% as far as specialty hospitals. But what was found was there was a 25% increase in adverse events with a private equity hospital, 27% increase in falls, a 38% increase in bloodstream infection. And despite having less central lines and probably less critical patients, outcomes are much worse. And the reason that is because they are extremely driven to profit. So when big box medical groups and hospitals are driven for profit, not health care, care goes. Less nurses, less staff, people are overworked, priorities are adjusted, and people don't do as well. So your insurance might pay for it, but what are you actually getting? So you're getting ripped off by paying a high insurance premium, and you're not getting care when you actually need it, which is very unfortunate. Most people think that dementia and Alzheimer's are something that happens to the elderly, but there is a significant set of the population that gets what's called early onset dementia, and that is defined as dementia before age 70. And there was a recent study in the UK that looked at what are the particular risk factors for getting early onset dementia, and they reviewed 356,052 participants, and they assessed 39 different possible points as far as risk factors for early dementia, and they came up with 15 factors that were significantly associated with dementia, far and above other risk factors. And the interesting thing is most of these can be altered or addressed, especially as a society. We could do this much easier. But one, lower formal education and lower socioeconomical status. So between the lowest and the highest, there was a significant early onset dementia in those people that were from a lower socioeconomic status. Again, you can go back to the other study and look at where the for-profit hospitals are and, kind of link that together with overall healthcare in these areas as well. If you have two ApoE genes, it increases your risk of early onset dementia. Interestingly, if you're Nigerian and you live in Nigeria and you eat a Nigerian diet, which is very high in fiber, they have a very low incidence of early onset dementia despite having two of these alleles. Alcohol, no alcohol was associated with early onset dementia, as was heavy alcohol. A little alcohol seemed to be a protective factor. Social isolation, and that was defined as visiting friends or family less than one time a month. These people had a significant risk for increased early onset dementia. Vitamin D deficiency, so a vitamin D level less than 10. Again, that may imply that people don't get out in the sunlight, so they're not, so not only not socially interactive, but they're not getting out, tend to be a poor health status all around. A high C-reactive protein, which is a sign of inflammation, is greater than 10 milligrams per liter. So inflammatory conditions that also affect the brain, increase risk of dementia. There have been studies over time looking at viruses, or prions associated with meat consumption. Remember mad cow disease? It went away in the press, but not necessarily completely away as far as dietary risk. But again, inflammatory conditions that can affect the brain can also lead to early dementia. Lower hand grip strength for a woman less than 25 kilograms or a man less than 40 kilograms. So on a squeeze machine that measures how much force you can apply, lower hand grip, again, a weakened person in general, weak loss of muscle. I've talked before about lack of muscle mass, lack of blood flow to the brain, increased risk of early onset dementia. So you can basically, a more frail person at a younger age, higher risk of dementia. Hearing impairment, that was either a yes or a no. So people that had impaired hearing had an increased risk of early dementia. Orthostatic hypotension, meaning when you stand up, your blood pressure drops instead of your blood vessels constricting to get blood flow to your head. That can be associated with an autonomic neuropathy, so brainstem issues, autonomic neuropathies associated with diabetes, inflammation of the nerves, again, or just decreased muscle mass and the decreased ability to get the blood flow to the brain. A history of stroke, obviously, is associated with the increased onset of early dementia. Diabetes at any age increases your risk of early onset dementia. Heart disease, again, lack of blood flow to the head. Decrease in, again, vascular disease, where it's one place, it's usually someplace else. So any place you have vascular disease would make you more likely to have vascular disease of the brain, therefore leading to early onset dementia. And then depression. Again, it may be associated with social isolation. It may be related to socioeconomic status or, overall life circumstance as well. But again, these things are really, the majority of them are able to be addressed. And, as a medical profession, this is what we should be doing instead of, looking to these areas to take advantage of for a private equity group to come in and swoop in and take care of these people or not take care of these people. Educating people on being more healthy. And the simple things, it's simple things. It's not complicated. Rural areas of the country, the places in the country where healthcare is the worst, tend to be associated where the Dollar General stores and the Dollar Trees are, and a lot of people get their food from the Dollar Trees, Dollar General, gas stations, and so it tends to be cheap food, fast food. Poor nutritional quality. So, educating people about farmers market and having fresh produce and educating people on the simple thing, potatoes, rice, beans, simple things, can make life a lot better for a lot of people. Getting outside, walking, it drives me insane to see people driving their children 2 blocks to the bus stop. Get out and walk with your kids. Demonstrate that, movement is good. And again, diabetes is very highly correlated with body mass index. So normalizing body mass index from an early age. We're seeing more and more children that are overweight and obese. Young adults, overweight and obese. It's going to increase the risk of dementia, diabetes, hypertension, stroke, and everything associated with it. I don't think, in my observation of years as practicing medicine and watching how people eat, I don't see people being able to eat this terrible diet and continue to be healthy. Everybody balloons up after 40. And now you're starting to see people balloon up even, as children being obese because they're not eating at home. They're eating fast food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's really, really a sad situation, but all of which can be avoided. So sometimes people don't realize, or maybe they're not afraid of heart disease. Maybe they think cancer can be cured. But everybody realizes that dementia, once it starts, it's almost impossible to reverse to any significant degree. You can delay the onset, again, by being aggressive, looking at these risk factors. One of the risk factors was being alone, and there was another study just recently published looking at pet ownership versus dementia factors. And pet ownership versus living alone versus living among other adults in a population, and they found that pet ownership was associated with a decrease in decline in verbal cognition, a decrease in decline of verbal memory, and a decline in verbal fluency. And that is both, dogs or cats. It held true with people just living with an animal more so than if people live with humans and an animal. So you didn't get a whole lot of advantage if you had a dog or cat, if you lived with or you were surrounded by other humans. But certainly people that live in isolation or live alone would benefit from having a companion animal. I have written prescriptions over the years for people to get a dog or a cat at an advanced age. I'm actually on one person's living will that if something happens to them, I'll take their cat. I don't regret that decision either. I think that they do so much better with having the cat in their house. People do so much better with having a little dog or having somebody to be able to, a dog to walk or a cat to play with. I think it's huge. We have always had a dog in our office. I brought my German Shepherds to the office. My nurse brings her Australian Shepherd to the office. People love to see animals. It's calming. It lowers their blood pressure. We bring animals into the room if they want to, and then take their blood pressure, and it goes down. So I'm all for pets being a part of people's family. And what podcast would be complete without talking about running? I didn't mention from the early start, but again, I'm coming up on my first 100-mile attempt, January the 13th, a long haul 100. Shout out to Andy Kroom, who's the race director, and his people. I'm looking forward to meeting some people that have been on the podcast. Harvey Lewis will be running. The brain cancer survivor will be running the 100 miles. So I'm really excited about meeting a lot of people and trying out my 100-mile nutrition plan and my 100-mile walking plan. So we'll see how it goes. I think I'm ready. Don't know, but it'd be a first try. I've never ran through the night. I've certainly been up lots of nights over my career as a cardiologist. So we'll see how it goes. However, there was a study looking at any running versus no running on cardiovascular and all-cause mortality. And the title of the study is that leisure time running decreases all-cause mortality and cardiovascular mortality. And the participants were from the Cooper Clinic in Dallas. And again, these people were health-conscious people that signed up to, have health evaluations for their longevity. They evaluated 55,137 adults aged 18 to 100 years of age with a mean age of 44. It was with a medical questionnaire, but they've had full physicals with blood pressure, glucose, cholesterol, body mass index, treadmill testing. But for the purpose of this study, it was medical questionnaire based on how much they ran or didn't run over a 15-year follow-up. Over that time, there were 3,417 deaths from all causes, 1,217 deaths from cardiovascular disease. 24% of those 55,000 people participated in running compared to the others that didn't. There was a 30% decrease in all-cause mortality and a 45% in cardiovascular mortality in people that ran versus people that did not, after adjusting for all kinds of factors such as blood pressure, glucose, cholesterol, body mass index, even smoking, age, alcohol consumption. So it trumped all of these things, stood out despite it. And it wasn't like they had to run a lot. That's what the crazy thing was. So even after adjustment, significant reduction in all-cause mortality and cardiovascular mortality, and overall a 3-year life expectancy benefit. And when you looked at how much they ran, it was divided in never running less than 51 minutes a week, less than 6 miles, 1 to 2 times a week, less than 506 metabolic units. Most of the running was less than 6 miles per hour, or less than a 10 minute per mile pace or greater. All of these factors, no matter how much, was associated with a decreased risk in mortality. If people persistently ran through the 15 years of follow-up, there was a 29% reduction in all-cause mortality and a 50% reduction in cardiovascular mortality. So even 5 to 10 minutes a day, less than 6 miles an hour, there was a marked reduction in risk for all-cause and cardiovascular mortality with respect to and controlled for all those other factors that we say increase your risk of dying of heart disease or all-cause disease. Not running was almost the biggest risk factor is hypertension for cardiovascular disease. There was a 16% reduction in cardiovascular disease for runners, there was a 16% increase in non-runners and a 15% increase in hypertensive patients. 3 years decrease in life expectancy for non-runners, 5.2 years decreased life expectancy for people with hypertension. So almost as much, not running is almost as bad as having high blood pressure. Compared with non-runners, runners had a 45% decrease in a 45% decrease in coronary artery disease mortality, a 40% decrease in stroke mortality. There is no medication out there. There is no cardiovascular procedure. There is no cancer test or cancer treatment, I would go on to say, that's going to reduce your risk as much as running very much a little bit every day, most days of the week. 5 minutes. 5 minutes is all you need. 5 minutes. Why would you not run? Why would you not run? I talked about Harvey Lewis a minute ago, but he has a friend that is 101 years, he still runs. Don't have to run fast. You just have to run. When you run, both feet's in the air. That's the difference between running and walking. So why wouldn't you want to do it? You don't have to run 100 miles. You have to run 5 to 6 minutes. Decrease cardiovascular risk factor mortality. Risk factors for running, you might twist your ankle, might fall down, might have an injury now and then. Not going to kill you. Going to decrease your risk of all-cause mortality, decrease your risk of cardiovascular mortality. I know, you're going to say your knees hurt. You played basketball when you were 12, and now your knees hurt when you're 70 or 60. You're too big to run. You're too busy to run. You're too old to run. You have too many kids to run. 5 to 6 minutes. running. And the thing is that if you start running, you're going to like it, and you're going to run a little bit more. And the more you run, the better things are. If your knees hurt, the idea is to look at your running form. Had a guest on here a few weeks ago, talked about running form. It's something that needs to be learned in respect that, as we get old and stiff, we kind of lose our mobility. So mobility is very important. Our practice is geared at keeping people mobile and moving. Sometimes it's frustrating to get people to do it. Everything comes before people's nutrition and mobility and movement, sometimes it seems. But I can't stress how important it is for proper nutrition and movement. Some people think they've got it. They don't, but the reality of it is most people need some assistance in getting this, down, whether it's accountability. The members that we have that are checking with us on a daily or weekly basis do much better than those that ghost us, so to speak. When people say they don't need to see us, usually it's because they're not doing the right thing and they don't want to kind of fess up, so to speak. We meet people where they are, but I'm always going to encourage people to move in some way every day because we're meant to move. So if you're thinking about, I should kind of step up my game, decrease my risk factor for all-cause mortality, decrease my cardiovascular risk factor, improve my immune function so I don't get sick by reversing my high blood pressure, my diabetes, moving, which decreases inflammation, decreases C-reactive protein. How might I get started? Go on over to our website, drdulaney.com, and you can find out how you can join our practice in one way or another to get a lot of great information to get going. The more you talk to somebody, the more accountability that you have. We have wellness challenges in our practice, and those people that participate in our wellness challenges do much better than those people who never open up that newsletter. We send out a newsletter to our members once a month. We send out a general newsletter that they also get. Again, we have wellness classes, nutrition classes, cooking classes that people can learn on how to do it well, how to prepare things, how to read a recipe and alter it so that you can look at just about anything and turn it into something healthy. The other thing that we talk about is, the studies of, why do people say this is better, that's better? And we give people encouragement so that they can have that discussion if need be with why are you doing this? And I would encourage you to check out our website if you'd like more information. So I hope that the end of the year is great. I wish you much health and happiness for 2024 and probably have one more podcast before I head up to Lakeland for the Long Haul 100. So happy running, even if it's only 5 to 6 minutes a day.